Bag and Brag Nation and Goose Chasers, what is up? Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to episode number 86 of Goose Chasing. And if you have not already listened to episode 85, I would encourage you to go back. I got to sit down with one of my really good buddies, Nick Ventura, one of my best friends in the hunting world, one of the guys that got us started or helped kind of propel Dean and I to get started. He's a insanely good storyteller. He is an insanely talented videographer and producer. He produces a bunch of different shows on the Sportsman's Channel. Super proud of him and all the hard work that he does, the family that he's created. And so I would highly, highly recommend you go back after you're done listening to this one, of course, and listen to that one. It's one of our better episodes, one of my favorite episodes that we've done in the total 86 episodes that we've had thus far in the life of Goose Chasing. So do that for me. If you're going to do anything for your boy, go do that. But today is a new day. Once again, happy Wednesday. We are just coming off a Masters week. I got the old dialed. Look at this hat, by the way. Look at this hat. That thing is spicy. Dialed Archery is on it. They are on their game like nobody else's business, and I'm here to give them their flowers. Like, they don't miss an event, something current that's going on in the sports world. It doesn't matter. They figure out a way to tie it in to the archery world and make it amazing. And this hat is just a prime example. The Masters are something that ever since I was a little boy, I've loved to golf. So just fun fact for all yous out there that are looking for the fun facts out there. Your boy actually won a couple tournaments back in the day when I was young. My parents were members at a country club that's kind of close to here, and I was getting in these youth tournaments, and I can't even remember if I had a coach or not. I don't even think I did. I was a baseball player, and naturally golf came to me, and I played it well. Not to say that my mentals didn't get in the way, because I was a perfectionist growing up. To this day, to some degree, I still am. And so when I would hit a bad shot, or when I would miss a putt or shank a drive or whatever, I mean, I'm not going to lie, the wheels could come off. Maybe they didn't always come off, but they could. They could. But I excuse me. I loved the game of golf. It allowed me to be outside. It allowed me to be in nature where I flourish. And the competitive portion of it for me was amazing. And especially when I was younger, when I was getting into these tournaments and stuff and playing with other kids my age, that grabbed me for some reason. Hunting is not really like a competitive thing. It's become a lot more competitive, I guess, in the modern era with social medias and stuff, because people just kind of compare themselves to others and want to one-up the guy next to them or the neighbor or whatever. And so that portion of it, we've talked about a lot. Not really a huge fan of it from the hunting world side of things, but like golf has the competitive nature. Golf, you can compete one-on-one or, one-on-one versus the field against other people. And, the score determines the winner. Your day or your couple days determine whether or not you are the top dog or not. So I've always loved golf. I kind of gave it up during my high school years, which if I had to go back and do anything, I would absolutely have played golf competitively in high school. My buddies, I had a couple really good buddies that were on the golf team. They begged me to play, but I was so ingrained in bow hunting, and it was always in the fall, so for me, I didn't want to give that up. I never wanted to give up the hunt ever. And So I didn't play. But if I had to, like, looking back on it now, if I had to go back and do it all over again, that is one thing in my life that I wish I would have done or taken more seriously, or just like continued to play it at the level that I was, when I was younger, because it was like grade school and middle school and stuff. Like I said, your boy was winning some tourneys. I don't know where the trophies are today, but I know that they existed back in the day. But getting back to it, the Masters has always been one of my favorite sporting events ever. Ever. It's just such a beautiful event. I mean, the course, the people, the whole world is involved in it. It's not just like a local thing or like a domestic thing. It's the whole world is literally watching this event. You got players from all over the world watching this event. And Dialed comes in with the gear, and they come in with the actual like Masters, with like a Masters, what is the word that I'm looking for? Inspired bow sight. They did a small batch. They do all these small batches. Then I get into it. I got the fight dial, the little Trump fight dial for my bow this year. And if you haven't seen that bow build will be coming out here soon. But they had a whole Masters inspired bow sight, couple different versions of this hat, T-shirts, tees, the whole 9 yards. Like, they just capitalized on this so well. So Dialed Archery, props to you. I mean, God bless. Tying different sports, tying different people together with the same interest. That's good stuff. And you know what? The Masters was awesome. Probably one of the best golf tournaments that I've watched in a long, long time. You got a bunch of different people that went in and out of the leaderboard throughout the weekend. DeChambeau is one of my favorite golfers right now. I just love his personality. I love, like, he's not really outspoken, but he's just not afraid to be himself. He's a big dude. He doesn't look like a golfer. He looks like he should be playing linebacker for, like, the Browns or something. And he could hit the ball a friggin' country mile, but also, like, he's got the short game, and the dude could putt, like, as good as anybody on the tour. And so, like, I just love, like, his game. I love his mentality. I love his authenticity. And there's a lot of other guys that I can relate to on the PGA Tour, but Rory McIlroy ended up winning the damn thing. It was a crazy finish if you didn't see, and he's been notorious for this tournament to fall short, to blow it. This is the last major tournament that he needed to win in order to have a career Grand Slam. There's 4 major tournaments in golf. There's the Masters, there's the U.S. Open, there's the Open, which is the British Open, and then there's the PGA Championship. And he has won the U.S. Open, the Open, and the PGA Championship, some of them multiple times before. But he finally got his Masters, so he is one of 6 golfers ever to win all 4 majors in his career. That's insane. And if you don't think that's insane, well, it's insane. I don't really know what to tell you. But he finally got it this year. He's been notorious for choking in the past, and he almost did. He had a putt on 18 to win it, not a long putt, like a 4 to 5 footer, and he didn't even lip it out. It just skated right past the hole. So he went to a playoff with a guy that actually, Justin Rose, actually fell back. He was leading for the first, or maybe the second and third day, or maybe it was the first, second, and part of the third day. I think that's what it was. And he fell off on the third day, had a horrible round, and then the last day of the tournament, he comes back on a tear, goes like 5 or 6 under, and gets to 11 under, putting the pressure on Rory as he's coming down the final hole. Rory muffs his putt. they go into a playoff. Now, the momentum, you can imagine, is with Justin Rose because Rory just missed that putt. He had that putt to win it. So they go to play 18 again, final playoff hole. Both of them hit good drives. Both of them hit good shots into the green. Justin misses his putt. It was a far longer putt than Rory's. Rory knocks it down, wins the Masters. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for golf. It's a beautiful thing for inspiration. Damn, Dave, what the heck is going on here? Got something in my throat. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing for golf. It's a beautiful thing for inspiration. It's a beautiful thing for motivation. And we'll talk a little bit about that maybe later. But yeah, it was awesome. The Masters. Gosh, just kind of kicks off spring, you know? It's like right before turkey season for us, at least, for the guys that are up north, for the ones that haven't been hunting in like Florida or any of the southern states that open up earlier. But it's the Masters is in Augusta, Georgia every year, same course every year. And it screams spring. Everything's green. They got the magnolias blooming, bunch of flowers. The patrons are all happy. Everyone's in shorts and their nice polo shirts. Gosh. And the serenading music. It's just, I mean, I could just sit on I wish every Sunday was a Masters Sunday. You kick back, you sit on the couch, you get your favorite snacks, maybe your honey hanging out with you. If she likes golf, I don't know. Maybe you make her watch it. I don't know. But it's just a great day. It's just the Masters Sundays. It's just a great friggin' day. So grateful for that, honestly. It's just kind of the beginning of spring, and it's the beginning of new life, new year. It almost feels like a new year, because you got, up here up north, it's cold. I mean, it's been cold, and then you get to that Masters Sunday. It was like 70 degrees, 65, 70 degrees, one of our first days that warm up in these parts all year long. So it just felt like a fresh new start, and I just love it, okay? I love it. But anyway, I don't have much to go off of today, honestly. I'm going through some changes, some self-reflecting, some self-awareness lately. I don't know. I kind of have some things going on in my life, to be honest with you, that are uncomfortable for me right now. And I'm not sharing any of this to get sympathy or, hey, Dave, it's going to be all right. Like, not that I don't need that. Anybody that's close to me that supports me, I very much appreciate. But it's more to kind of bring light to, like, anybody that's going through a tough time or going through, heartbreak or going through maybe a move or just a massive change in their life that's got them stuck right now. And that's where I'm at, that's where I'm at. It's honestly, for me, like, it's hard to get motivated at times to, like, do what I love to do. It's hard to get motivated to turn on the camera and, document all of what we do at Tag and Brag, even though it's my job. It's hard to get motivated to, like, edit projects and do some of that right now. And that's okay, and that's why I'm kind of bringing this to light. And I don't need to, like, tell my whole story or why or any of that stuff. But I don't know. There's somebody out there listening to this that is struggling a little bit right now, or maybe a lot of bit right now, that could benefit from hearing that it's going to be okay. And not just it's going to be okay because, like, that's, like, what you say and you pat somebody on the back and it's going to be okay. No, I'm doing a lot of work on myself right now. Like I said, self-awareness, self-reflecting, kind of digging deep. What are my true needs, wants, like resetting goals. And so like there's a lot of work being done on myself. Like I'm putting that work in myself. And it's not easy. Like a lot of this stuff, it brings out pain. It brings out sadness, anger, and all that. And I guess what I mean by it's going to be okay is like when you go through tough times and when you go through things that challenge you and certainly adversity, like you can do one of two things. You can wallow in it and you can have self-pity and you can self-sabotage and you can say this is happening to me and you're a victim and all that stuff. And I think for anybody that kind of like that comes to light at times, or you can like get to the source of it. You can like look in the mirror. You can dig deeper within yourself, because I could tell you that there's no circumstance that you're in right now that isn't your responsibility. And if you're putting it on somebody else, then you're falling victim to you're falling victim to that responsibility, and nothing is going to change. So as hard as it is when things are tough, like you've got to be able to take a look in the mirror and be like, what do I need to do to improve? Because you've got control. It's your life and you've got control. So what do I need to do to improve this? And I'm gonna be honest with you, like that whole self-reflection, or this whole self-reflection for me, is probably one of the most intense ones that I've done in my life. And it's working. I'm going to be a better man because of it. And I just want to bring all this to light because you can too. Like if you're struggling with something, you're not the only one, number one. If you're struggling with something, that doesn't mean that you're stuck in this point forever, number two. If you're struggling with something, there is good on the other side of all this, but it's going to take patience and a little bit of work on your end in order to get that. It's not just going to happen for you. Maybe it will, but more than likely it won't. And throughout this whole process, one of the strongest things that I've learned, and this is pretty powerful, is life is not happening to me. It's happening for me. And what that means is if you have the mentality that that life is happening to you, that's the victim mentality. It's somebody else's fault. That's if they would have done this, I would be better. If I was in this circumstance, I would be better. If I had this, I would be better. But if you realize that life is happening for you, and part of this is my faith and my relationship with God, and I used to be afraid to talk about this. I'm really not anymore because it's real. I believe in it. And he is helping me through this process. And through the adversity, through the difficulty that I'm experiencing right now, that's God putting in front of me the opportunity for growth. That is life happening for me, not to me. And that's a really powerful thing. Once you can kind of get that into that headspace and you can get comfortable with that, like that is fucking powerful as shit. Because at the beginning of all this, like I didn't have an answer. I didn't have awareness. I didn't know what to do. You know, I was begging for things to change just because I wanted to feel better. But then you realize the life happening for me stuff, like there's a reason for all of this. And whatever that reason is for you, it could be different or similar to what it is for me, but there's a reason for the adversity right now God is trying to challenge you. God's changing things in your life, and it's not permanent. You know, that the bad feeling, the heartbreak, the despair, the disgust, the anger, the sadness, that's not permanent. But you have to go through it in order to get to whatever God truly wants you to do and God truly wants you to be. And that's where I'm at right now. So, you know, part of me, honestly, didn't really want to do this podcast. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, part of me didn't, I'm trying to dig and think, and what can I do the podcast on? What can I talk about? What in the hunting world? Nothing really is going on in our hunting world right now, per se. Like, but then I'm like, dude, talk about what's happening to you right now. And I don't have to talk about like the details, or we don't have to get into all of what it is, but the level of what it is, or the reason for what it is, or what it actually is, and what I'm actually feeling and going through matters. I'm significant. It matters. You're significant. What you're feeling, what you're going through, that shit matters. So why not talk about that? And I want to tie this kind of into, the hunting side of things, because, it's goose chasing. We got to tell stories around here. We got to have a good time. But like I said, like, there was a part of me today that was like, I get to record a podcast. I don't really want to. I don't really feel like talking to anyone right now. But I'm gonna talk about how I feel. Because there's a vulnerable state of that could be extremely scary. And there could be some people out there that just is like, oh yeah, this dude, like, what is this podcast now, this and that, whatever. But it's mine. And I created it. We created it. I could talk about whatever I want. And once again, there's somebody out there that's listening to this right now that is struggling with something. And maybe this could help them. And if you're the person that you're not struggling right now, maybe you know somebody that is. Pass it along. Pass it along. I'm not saying this, once again, for like sympathy or pity or any of that. I don't need it. Like, I'm going through I'm on my own path. I'm self-reflecting and becoming far more self-aware right now as it is. Like, that's not what I need. But part of what I need is to give. So if giving this little bit of vulnerability is going to help somebody else, God bless. And once again, the biggest thing out of this whole situation, is if you're going through something difficult, or even if you're going through successes in life right now, life is not happening to you. Life is happening for you. Good, bad, or indifferent. Let that shit sink in. Now, through all of this, and even just I didn't know what hunting related thing I wanted to talk about, but I do now. And it's kind of talking through a lot of what I just talked about that's gotten me to this point. And right now I can see my first ever archery buck on the wall, hanging down here in HQ, where we started, tag and brag to begin with, 10 plus years ago. Fitting for this podcast, honestly. And I see that deer in his little 5-point frame, and I'm so proud of that buck. Like, it's undeniable. And I mean, I think anybody that is a hunter that can go back and look at their first deer, like, you're obviously going to be proud of that. But I'm not proud of it as much because of it being, like, it hanging on the wall and being able to have that, like, physical rack and look at it as my first deer. Like, I'm more proud of it because of all the shit that I had to go through to get to that point right there. And at that point, when I killed that deer, a different level of bow hunter in me was born. I got my wings. That was my first ever bow kill ever. And leading up to that, there was so many misses, miscues, mishaps, mishits that literally broke me down, that made that moment right there a million times better, a million times more amplified, a million times more satisfying and gratifying. And let's run through a couple of them. I remember my first ever opportunity at a deer. Had this doe coming up. My dad and I were sitting together in what we called the lower orchard, and kind of this apple orchard. Trees are real low, so the canopy's real low. You could only get 6 feet max off the ground, and you're just barely seeing under the canopy of the trees. And it was a really cool spot back in the day because this apple orchard had to be a solid 3 to 4 acres, maybe a little bit more. And the trees within it, like the apple trees blossomed like crazy. I mean, I'm telling you, when you walked through the lower orchard back in the day when we were starting to hunt, you couldn't walk without stepping on an apple. The food was plentiful throughout, like unbelievable. That's why when we would go in there, you almost had a sure shot at killing something. You definitely had a sure shot at seeing something, but it was almost a guarantee because there was very little standards back then that you were killing something. So we're in there, and we're in the crotch of this big apple tree. It went in like 3 or 4 different directions. I remember my dad, he's sitting on like one of the limbs of the tree. I'm actually on the tree stand. Safety first. Don't do that at home. And a group of these doe come walking up. They come walking up out of this thicket, and they're going to come up to us at like 20 yards. But it's like a downhill shot. And a couple of the little ones get through the lane, and the bigger one is coming, and I draw my bow, and she gets to like 20 yards. And right as I'm getting like 3/4 of the way back, meanwhile, I'm young at this point, whatever the legal age of hunting, 14 or something at this point. And I get my bow back, or I'm 3/4 of the way getting my bow back, but I'm still struggling to pull like the legal 45 pounds, I think it is. So, I'm kind of giving it the sky pull, if you will. So there's movement involved. Well, I get 3/4 of the way back. She friggin' pins right on us. Like, see ya. Now, I get my bow back. I'm trying to look through my peep sight. I'm shaking like a leaf. She's locked on us, making me shake even more. I probably didn't really even settle the pin on where it should have been settled behind the shoulder. I probably just saw brown and let it rip and slung one right over her back. She blew once and flew out of there like a bat out of hell. And it was like, at that time, I didn't know or understand fully, like, that was just one opportunity, and you could get up the next day and create another opportunity for yourself. It was like, that was the opportunity. It was the only one I was ever going to have of that season. It was the only one I was ever going to have ever, and it shook me to my core. I was so upset. I blew it, but I had practiced so much up until that point, but I blew it in the moment. So what do? You dust yourself off. You get back on the saddle. I don't know if it was the same. I know it was the next year when I actually killed my first one. I think these 3 instances that I'm going to talk about were all in the same year. So it might have been a couple weeks later, different part of the property. Dean and I I'm in a ladder, and we had a little lock-on stand right next to it. My dad is in his climber up the hill a couple 100 yards. And a buck had come down towards him, just a little forker. And we could kind of see, like, we could almost see where where my dad was at. So we could actually see the deer, like, under his stand. And I think my dad, like, anticipated this deer coming down to Dean and I, so he wasn't going to shoot. Well, I could see the deer. Dean was like, I think it's a little buck, whatever. So I got out my grunt, and I grunted at him a couple times. Well, sure enough, this deer just kind of starts moseying down the hill, and we're sitting literally right on a big tractor trail, old logging road that comes right down the hill. And it's like wide open. I mean, like literally 8 to 12 yards in front of the stand is a perfect lane wide open. Well, this deer kind of gets curious, and he's coming just, here I come. I'm a dumb forker. Here I come. Who's grunting down here? And he comes down this hill, and he gets to probably 20 yards, and he's on a dead walk. And he's like kind of coming from like a 45-degree angle, this trail right behind us. But he's going to end up right in our lap. I go to yank my bow back, and I had one of those like little prong rests. So the arrow just literally sat like right in between the two prongs of the rest. Could easily fall off. Hence, what happens next? I draw back. Once again, I'm struggling to pull my bow back with all the layers on, sky draw on this thing. And as I am finalizing my draw, I cock my bow to the left a little bit, and the arrow falls off the rest and is like leaning on my left shoulder. And right as all that happened, he is perfectly 8 yards right below us in the lane. He just looks right up at us. And I am at full draw, and my arrow is on still knocked to my string, but is resting on my left shoulder. And Dean doesn't know what to do. You know, he's not even old enough to bow hunt yet, so he's just like, and we're both kind of like, oh my God. And that little forker stared a hole through us for like what felt like 2 minutes. It was probably about 8 seconds. And then he gave one blow and headed right on out of there. And once again, your boy was shook to the core. I had an opportunity, probably the first buck or the first deer that I ever grunted in personally. Grunted him in right to the tree, made to order opportunity. The deer's standing at 8 yards right below my tree. I get to full draw, and my arrow comes off the rest and is leaning on my shoulder, and I am just like, you got to be kidding me. Once again, your boy's distraught. Your boy's heartbroken. Your boy's dealing with the adversity of bow hunting once again at a very young age, mind you. And, you know, it was at that point where I pretty much wanted to throw my bow out of the tree. And in between the doe and that, I had other, you know, encounters or opportunities that were close. Like it just kept seeming like it was getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And then I believe it was the next year, earlier on in the season. And actually, this might have gone through a 3-year span. Anyway, I had another miss or two in the books. Arrows flinging, coming up empty. Your boy's brokenhearted. But this next one really, really hit home with me. And now we're in the same spots as the forker that I shot before. But this time, Dean and I are in a ladder stand up the hill. My dad is down below where I was full draw on the forker and the arrow came off my rest. And we're sitting at a spot that we call Four Corners because the logging road that was down the hill that we were sitting on up the hill crosses another logging road, hence the Four Corners. A lot of action in this spot, by the way. A lot of action. A lot of deer been killed. It's a very famous location on the Camp Cutlet Hill. But anyway, afternoon, Dean and I get up there once again. He's not old enough to hunt yet. sitting there with my bow, ladder stand, hang on, Dean's next to me, and all of a sudden, and we look up, and there's a deer coming right down the logging road right in front of us. And once again, that son of a gun is going to end up, if he stays on the logging road, he is going to end up right at the tree at about 12 yards, right under us. And sure enough, he does. He's on a dead walk. It was end of October or early November. He was on a dead walk right to us, one of them little yearling bucks just looking for his first piece of punani, his first love that he could feel as a young buck. And he's on a dead walk, oblivious to anything in the world going on other than the fact that he's following his nose to love, or so he thought. He gets right under us. I come to full draw. Arrow stays on the string. He doesn't see me, and he stops at 12 yards right friggin' there. Dead broadside right there. Well, I settle that pin. I let it go. I watch the arrow stick him. What I now know was a little bit back, probably one of the last few ribs or so, mid-body, up and down, mid-body, left and right. This deer goes taking off down the hill towards my dad. He runs about 80 yards, and he stops, and he stands there. And I could see the arrow sticking out of him. And then he looks around, and then he just goes back. He keeps bounding, and he goes off and out of sight. Dean and I are freaking out. Just killed my first deer, my first buck with a bow. Unbelievable. Dad's freaking out. So we give it a little while, and my dad ends up coming up to us, and there's blood right away, and we go and track, and we get all the way down to where he stopped, and there's blood. Pretty good. It's dark red blood, which I had to have hit him in the liver and probably some of the guts. But he ran right down into our creek bottom that now is kind of our little sanctuary. And it made sense. Like, he goes down towards the creek, he's going to go die down there. Well, we waited till about half hour before dark to start tracking. So once we got down to where he stopped, it was already getting a little dark. We went a little bit past where he stopped. We found the arrow. The arrow is literally, half of the arrow is coated solid red in just deep red blood, like almost purple. So we let him go overnight, and we come back the next morning, and we start tracking. And we track him all the way down to where we probably tracked him another 100 yards or so, and then we ran out of blood. And at this point, he was getting down close to the creek. The logical thing would have been he goes down right to the creek, and he stiffens up down there, and he dies somewhere down there. Otherwise, he takes a left, and he's got to go up like damn near a cliff, and a pretty big one. Probably one of the biggest ridges on our property, which didn't make any sense. So for the remainder of the day, literally for the remainder of the day, and we started in the morning, we combed the creek bottom on both sides of the creek, back and forth, multiple times, looking for this deer. And it gets really, really thick down there. Tall grass, thick brush. So it would have made sense for him to go down there. Well, we looked the whole rest of that day. I hit him on a Friday night. We looked all Saturday. We looked half a Sunday. We can't find this deer. And other than like trying to get permission and stuff, like he would have had to have gone really, really far for him to get onto somebody else's property. And unfortunately, and this did not happen often when we were young, is we had to cut our losses with the deer. And, it was ingrained into us, if we drew blood, we were finding that deer. That was ingrained into us at a very young age. And so in this instance, it was very difficult for me, especially as a young hunter, to accept that we couldn't do that. And we couldn't do it because of the shot that I made. It was really hard. Like, I remember going to school that next week and damn near being in tears almost every morning because I felt bad for the deer. I felt ashamed as a hunter. I felt like I just couldn't get it right as a bow hunter. And because there was so many failed opportunities, and I just didn't understand. And the next week, I went back, I got into the same stand, and I don't even know what I was hoping for, honestly. I don't even know what I was really hoping for. But I remember sitting there, and I didn't see a deer all morning. And my dad was in the same climber down below. And Dean, I think he had basketball or something. He was not with us the next weekend. But I remember there was crows going crazy behind me all morning. Crazy. And there was just a little knoll in the hill, and they were just up and over the hill. I couldn't really see what they were doing or what was going on. And it was so dramatic that when we were ending the morning hunt, my dad was coming up to me. He's like, "Man, what were all them birds doing this morning?" I'm like, "Dad, I don't know. They were back there all morning." So we kind of took a walk back up the logging road, back up towards where they were, and we got about 60 yards, not even. We got about 40 yards from the stand that I was sitting in, and looked over, and you could see a white belly. And we went over there, and it was the buck that I had shot the weekend before. And what he must have done is he went back down into that creek where we lost blood. He went up that steep embankment. He went up that ridge, and he just did a complete half circle trying to go back to where he came from. And he died literally 50 or 60 yards from the stand that I shot him in. And the whole day and a half that we were searching down below, down by the creek. None of us came back up and searched in and around where the stand was because it didn't make any sense. So at that point, it was like it was a bittersweet for me. We cut the rack off. I got to keep that as just kind of a keepsake or whatever, and just a memory of the deer. Unfortunately, the deer, we didn't get to utilize the meat of the deer. I mean, the coyotes, the birds, and everything, it fed nature for sure. But man, it was such a weird feeling. And once again, it was like bittersweet. Like it was cool to have the rack. It was good to have closure for me, especially at that young age. Like I needed that closure. But I still felt inadequate as a bow hunter. So when that happened, when the 5-point finally happened, and this was the next year, I was on a completely different part of our property. My dad had actually shot a 6-point that same morning, and I was sitting in the stand just kind of waiting for him to get out and for us to go track, and all of a sudden, like dead walk, I could hear something coming. It was getting louder, and I knew it was coming right to me. Couldn't see it yet, but it was coming right to me. I'm sitting at the edge of this field and another logging road, and coming right down this logging road is this 5-point. And I remember the feeling to this day. And like, I knew right when I saw that deer coming, I'm like, I'm killing this deer. Like, I knew I'm killing this deer. That's how confident I was, but it was because of all the failures that happened before. I knew when I was going to draw. I knew that I wasn't going to tip my bow sideways. I knew that I was going to wait for when to draw so that he couldn't see me. I knew that I was going to wait to draw so that he got into range, and when I was drawn, like I knew where I could make a shot. And all of that came together. He got to like 20 yards behind this cluster of trees, still on a dead walk. I drew back. I got my bow back. Arrows still on the rest. He has no idea that I'm there. He keeps walking to like 15 yards, and for whatever reason, he got right to the edge of that logging road in the wide open for me, and he stopped. Dead broadside, he stopped. And I remember telling myself, settle the pin, see it through your peep sight, see exactly where you want to hit behind the shoulder before you release. And all of those things came to fruition. And when I released that arrow, I watched it hit right behind the shoulder, and I knew that deer was done. He wheeled around and took off right back where he came from, and I just started going nuts because I knew he was done. And at that point, we had the little radios. I radioed to my dad. I'm freaking out. He had shot a buck. I had just shot a buck. And it was an insane feeling because I was so proud. I was so proud. And I don't think I would have been as proud if I didn't battle through all that adversity, through all those failures up until that point. It was like that was the exact right moment for me to become a true bow hunter because I knew and understood the hardships of the hunt. I knew and understood more the value of that life. I knew and understood more of the severity and the discipline that it takes to be in that moment to make a perfect shot. So we didn't even go track my dad's deer. He came right down to me, and we started tracking my deer. And I'm telling you what, the deer was bleeding like crazy. And my dad was 10 to 15 yards ahead of me on the track the entire time, just blazing trail. Because I know now that he knew what he knew what was going down. And we found that deer, and I didn't even see the deer yet. He turned around, grabbed me with both arms, squeezed me so hard I felt like my eyes were going to come out of my face in just complete jubilation for the moment because he knew how much that meant to me too. He knew the time and effort that I had put in, the failures that I had gone through because he was with me for most of the time. And I'll never forget that moment. We had a couple other of my uncles up in camp. Dean was up there, brought him back to the lake house, had him in the front yard, got to take pictures and stuff. And like that, I will never forget getting those wings as a bow hunter. And I can relate that to what I'm going through right now because, you know, I'm in the adverse time right now. But adversity is a privilege. And one of my favorite UFC fighters just had a fight this weekend, and he said the exact same thing. He won the belt back after getting knocked out in his last 2 fights. And he said after the fight, adversity is a privilege. The belt doesn't mean that much. It's how you got there that actually means something. So when I look at that 5-point up on the wall, yeah, the animal means a lot. And having his rack up on the wall, yeah, it means something to me. But what means the most to me is how I got to that point right there. And that is what fueled me to be here right now, sitting in front of you, to choose this as a career, to choose this as a path and something that I've dedicated my life to. And it goes back to the Masters. Rory, who won the Masters this weekend, the last major that he won was 11 years ago. So for 11 years, people have been talking about him getting his 4th major or winning the Masters so that he can be one of 6 in golf ever to win all 4 majors and to have the Grand Slam of majors in their career. And it took him 11 years since his last major win to do that. 11 years. People have been talking about it, expecting it. He's been expecting it. He's been putting things on himself. He's been failing. He's blown up and completely blew opportunities at it. And then it got down to this one, and as soon as he made that putt on the green, he literally fell to his knees and started crying. How could you not? Like, that's God working through all of it. It's all happening. It all happened that way for a reason. And that's why adversity is a privilege, because when you get to that moment of success, when you get to that moment of whatever it is that you're seeking, it means that much more because of what you went through. That's it. That's it. Man, I'm all in my feels today. I'm feeling a whole different level of motivated and inspired, and it's because of you guys. Like, I didn't want to be sitting here today because of how I feel to some degree internally, but it's the work that I'm doing on myself, and it's ultimately the promise that I've made to you guys to show up every day. So thank you. Thank you. Because recording this for the last 50 minutes just fueled me far more than I've been fueled in a long, long time. And it made me see the light even more, that life is happening for me. It's not happening to me. Adversity is a privilege. And when you can really grasp that, fuck. Your life changes. Your life changes. So, we'll end it off there. I hope y'all have a fantastic rest of your week. I love each and every one of you. Don't forget to leave us a comment, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and TikTok. And don't forget that adversity, it's a privilege. And life is happening for you, not to you. I love each and every one of you. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next Wednesday.